Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. Now, today, I want to talk about a very important conjunction that's happening that I've actually been talking about quite a lot already in other recordings on my channel, and many astrologers have also been talking about this as well because it's very significant. And last night, or well, I say last night, really this morning, and this is why probably I'm looking, quite tired in this video because my sleep was interrupted because I was starting to have a download / dialogue with Uranus, yeah? Because as you know, the planets come through for me from time to time. It doesn't happen all the time in terms of like dreams and stuff like that. It often happens in consultations and stuff like that with clients, which can often be the case. Planets will come through, but it's normally, it could happen at any time, but it tends to be the small hours of the morning. So this for me was around about 5:30 a.m. This morning, and today is the 28th of July 2022, and let's just get you the current time right now. I think it's around about 11:30. Ah, heavens, my computer's gone to sleep. Typical. Anyway, the point that I want to kind of talk about is this very significant. So at the moment in the sky, we have got Uranus, Mars, and Rahu coming together in this kind of big conjunction in sidereal Aries. Yeah. In the nakshatra of Bharani, which is what you've heard me talking about ages. What is Bharani all about? The symbol for Bharani is the yoni, the female reproductive system. It deals with birthing new things, but it deals with labor pains. It deals with consequences of all kinds. Here we are, here's the time. So it's 11:50 a.m., Thursday, 28th of July, as I'm doing this recording. So Bharani deals with consequences, the female reproductive system, etc. So just to recap, for anyone that hasn't seen the video, on April 30th, there was a solar eclipse in Bharani nakshatra, which symbolizes what I described earlier, the female reproductive system. And then about a couple of days later, on the 2nd of May, the Supreme Court ruled or overruled Roe versus Wade, and in essence put it back to the states, yeah, for them to decide. But of course that triggered a lot of automatic kind of laws, essentially effectively banning abortion. As we know, this has just been playing out. So this conjunction, so which is here, so if I actually show it on the USA chart, because we're also going to be talking about the chart of the GOP, we're going to be talking about the chart of the Democrats, and we're going to be talking about the USA chart, and we're going to be talking about Trump and Biden. Yeah, so this is an amalgam, a real special, trying to really encapsulate all those things. Now here is the chart that I use for the USA Declaration of Independence. I wrote it as the constitutional chart. It's not technically that one, it's the Declaration of Independence chart. And what is happening is there is going to be a lunar eclipse on the 8th of November 2022, which is the exact day when the voting starts for the midterms. Yeah, I want you to remember that. That's really important. And that conjunction will be happening up here, again, in sidereal Aries. Mars, by this point, would have moved over into Taurus, the sign of money and finances and security and stuff, where he'll be staying for about, I think it's about 8 months. Yeah, he goes in there from August to around about March. Wow, long time. So I'll read more on that in the future because that is very, very significant. But remember, Taurus deals with values, security, money, food, yeah, wealth, those kind of things, values, securities. But anyway, so this this conjunction is causing a square. Yeah, so if we go here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Any signs that are 4 signs away from each other or aspects, they create a square. And squares are tension. Let me just quickly pick that up. Get that thing here and put Rahu back. It's on a little bit of blue tack here. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. I've been having to change around so many of my different charts, looking at the conjunctions, looking where they are, looking where Biden's planets fall, where Trump's planets fall, where conjunctions happen for the GOP, for the Democrats, for the USA. So I'm going to try and pack it all in to one video if I can. So there we are. We were talking about the square. Yeah. So any sign or houses that are far away from each other are a square. Squares deals with tensions. Squares deal with energy, friction. It tends to be considered essentially, it's a difficult aspect, but it is an aspect where there can be rewards if those difficulties are overcome. That's one way of looking at it. So that sets the context. Yeah. So I was basically just sleeping, and then, you know, Uranus comes through with this kind of stream of consciousness in terms of explaining how his position in the sky is essentially going to affect matters here on Earth. And I'm going to go into some details here. It's not all necessarily positive, but this is stuff that we have to know, because this is actually quite a rare and powerful conjunction. The last time that this happened, if I remember correctly, according to one astrologer that was studying this, who many of you may know, she's called Jenny Petrie, and politics aside, depending on what people's beliefs are or this, that and the other, that's not really the point. The point is that she's identified that this happened in 1855, I think was the last time, and this had a lot to do with the American Civil War, yeah, stuff like that. So just understand that this is a very rare configuration with a lot of potentially unsettling aspects, but there may be some one or two positive aspects in there as well, but it's tumultuous. It's fair to say this. And, you know, I just want to acknowledge whenever, if I'm looking at some other astrologers, Vedic astrologers that are giving this accurate information. Sam Jeppy is another one as well, excellent Vedic astrologer who spoke about these energies and how this conjunction would play out. So, you know, I think it's good to just mention other voices that are also saying the same things. So there I am asleep, and then I'm woken up by Uranus and having this kind of stream of consciousness, this download where he's essentially saying, look, these are the results. So what have I put here? So what I do is I write everything, of course, in my notebooks. I didn't do it immediately. I was able to record it all, but it was at 5:30. It was 5:30 in the morning, and I was so tired. I was like, okay, Uranus, just tell me what's going to happen. So this is all happening at 24 degrees of sidereal Aries, and it creates a T-square between Saturn and Pluto. So we need to understand that if we go to the USA chart, back to the USA chart, here is Saturn and Pluto right here. Now, Pluto's original placement is in the USA chart is 6 degrees and 48 minutes. Pluto at the moment, I should move this down a bit here, is really kind of here, yeah, sort of hovering around about 3 degrees, if I remember correctly. Let me just get my computer open and see if I can give you the exact degree Pluto is at today via transit. And if I look here, yes, Pluto is at 2 degrees and 59 minutes. So he's basically at 3 degrees, and he's currently retrograde at the moment. So, but in the USA chart, the original position of Pluto is 6 degrees 48 minutes. And we consider an orb of 3 degrees to be very activating. So Pluto is in that very activating range. What does Pluto deal with? Pluto deals with, of course, the underbelly of humanity, deals with the real kind of dark side, but primarily he deals with fascism as well. He deals with fascism, he deals with, plutocracies, totalitarianism, etc., that kind of stuff. Now, this is the wider square, but here this Uranus square Saturn is very strong. And of course, Rahu is there. At the moment, Mars is here. Yeah. And this conjunction becomes exact towards the end of July, because it's the 28th of July now. So between now and the 1st of August is the exact point. So this, surprise, surprise, this is obviously the time where, you know, the dream is coming through, because the planets tend to speak when their most powerful effects are about to happen. So remember that, there's that square there. What is Saturn? Saturn deals with what? Government, distribution systems of all kinds. Deals with big organizations like Big Pharma or big corporate entities, etc. Pluto, of course, is that darker underbelly. So what is it that we're seeing around the world? We see everything seems to be what? Lurching to the right, or these more far-right ideologies seem to be coming out. And I'm going to go into that in more detail when we look at the GOP chart as well. So that is giving that overview, that context. Now, let me quickly read out what I said here. So Mars, Rahu, Uranus, 24 degrees of Aries, creating a T-square with Saturn and Pluto, and also Ceres as well. Ceres is the, you can't actually see it here, but she's the asteroid which deals with motherhood, ironically. But it's not just that. So Ceres, transiting Ceres, is over here. In fact, let me find where she is. There she is. I've left her on Duck Larange's chart here, because I was looking at, you may remember I was looking at Ivana Trump. Do you remember? Via Donald Trump's chart, indicating that accident. Here we are. Ceres. Oh. Yeah, which is basically, you know, an inverted form of Saturn, because both deal with harvest. It's the scythe for both. Ceres is over here. Now this T-square here, remember I said you count 4 signs away, and that also shows where a square is. So if we count from Aries, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cancer, the sign of Cancer, is also squared, which is also Rahu, the north node of the moon, with Mercury. This is a very dynamic, bombastic combination, but it has a lot to do with media, but it also has a lot to do with lies as well. Deceit is in the 8th house. Sudden shocks and surprises, espionage, underbelly. Again, the darker side of human nature, exploitation, mind control, things like that. So here we see this is what is called a T-square. Yeah, this is what is called a T-square here. So I want you to imagine a T like that. Very activating, but it's very tumultuous. And as we can see, there's a lot going on in society. So I just wanted to illustrate that point there. Now, let's go through what Uranus represents. And remember, he's here with Mars, which is what? The planet of energy, conflict, war, heat, fire. What are we seeing everywhere? All around the world. I've said this before. Fire incidences. Look at the UK. We just recently hit 40 degrees for the first time in our recorded history. And we've got about 200 years worth of actually recorded weather, temperatures, etc. and stuff like that. And we know for absolutely sure that this is the highest temperatures that we've had since records, very detailed records, started 100 years ago in a specific place in the UK. So this is unique. We've also got what? More forest fires again in California. Do you see how everything has been heating up? There's been heat incidents everywhere. So here we are. So Uranus will trigger anger, protests, and civil unrest. Yeah. Mars is the planet of passion and anger, can also deal with what? Firearms, weapons, explosions, war, things like mass shooting, stuff like that. Uranus is sudden shocks and surprises. The unconventional, the weird, the strange. He's also the planet of castration. He was castrated by Saturn, who's making this square, because Saturn used to be called Kronos once upon a time. And Kronos essentially emasculated his father by cutting off his private parts, throwing them into the sea, and that's where Aphrodite was born upon the waves. So Saturn and Uranus have always had beef with each other, because Saturn is rules, regulations, going slow, by the book, like those distribution systems, rules and regulations, government, etc. Uranus can represent anarchy, can represent civil unrest, the breaking of the rules. Uranus is a rule breaker. That's why he's also known as the great liberator as well. But he can liberate, but he can also cause a lot of chaos and anarchy as well. And these two are squaring each other, as you could see, as I demonstrated in the USA chart. But this square is happening for everyone on planet Earth. Everyone, yeah. We've all got a house that is ruled by Aries, and we've all got a house that's ruled by Capricorn, yeah, which is Mars and Saturn. All right, I'm just going to read off this list here, try and get through, and then I want to talk about, the GOP, then I want to talk about the Democrats, and then Trump, and then Biden, and how this T-square or how these yogas are potentially affecting them. Okay, so here we are. Uranus will trigger anger, protest, civil unrest. We've been seeing that already. Let's not forget as well in Sri Lanka, yeah, where they stormed the president's residence and they got rid of him, and now they have a new government. So sudden shocks and surprises again. Assassination attempts, like with Shinzo Abe. Remember, I spoke about this, but this is also as well something Sam Jeppy talked about very specifically. He said there will be assassination attempts. Same for Joni as well, said the same. Shinzo Abe was sadly assassinated a few weeks ago, but this energy is intensifying. There could be more. Yeah, I know, but don't, sorry to spook you guys, but this is a very rare and powerful and intense configuration, and it's very relevant as well for the midterms. So it can also deal with earthquakes as well. Uranus is going to be standing still. Yeah. And when planets stand still, they are very powerful. Their energy gets magnified, yeah, because it's like it can accumulate. So it can deal with earthquakes due to the long stationing position of Uranus as it begins to go retrograde. But now he's basically standing still. It can deal with epic wildfires due to Mars and Rahu will fan the flames, just like what I was saying. But here, there's more here. There could be electronic events that will involve lightning strikes or electrical surges of power grids of some kind that could lead to breakdowns of power grid structures and power supplies, right? Because Uranus is squaring Saturn, the government and infrastructure, but also Pluto. Pluto is also associated with nuclear power, so there could be events to do with nuclear as well, but he deals with energy of all kinds. So he deals with nuclear power primarily, but he's also heat and fire as well, and electricity and all of that kind of stuff. And he also deals, because he also deals with corruption, things like that. So, and the corruption and mismanagement of such resources. So that is making me think of, again, for entertainment purposes only, but my mind is thinking about Texas here. It is very, very hot. We all know how hot it is. They've got an independent power grid that's not connected. We all saw what happened with last winter. Hopefully they fixed up a lot of things and the local government there has done better. What's his name? Abbott is, was basically in charge there. How much he's done, we'll have to see, again, for entertainment purposes only. But I've said earlier, there could be some kind of weather event that changes the political dial in Texas. It could be because there is either the circuit kind of either blows up or melts down, or there's some fire incident or some electrical incident, some kind of lightning or something like that, or maybe possibly an earthquake or something, or some weather event coming through, because things are also hot and wet at the same time as well, because we've got Jupiter and Neptune together in the sign of sidereal Pisces, which is the sea, water. So this says to me weather events, but I think Texas is particularly vulnerable, but it doesn't have to be Texas. It could be anywhere in the United States, but also as well around the world, but I'm just flagging that one up. I've put here there will be an increase on the personal and everyday level of potential things like heart attacks and strokes and accidents of all kinds due to the added influence of Mars and Rahu. This also can also include mass shooting events and random acts of violence. Now, look, I know what I'm saying, it doesn't sound positive, but just look at the news. Yeah, what's happening? Look at the news. Yeah, we just see these things, but what I'm saying is these energies are coming to a peak now. They're reaching a kind of a crescendo, and it's going to be very significant for the weeks going forward, weeks and months going forward, because you know this energy, this Rahu Uranus combination is going to be lasting for a long time. Yeah, it takes the nodes of the moon 18 months to move through a sign. And Uranus is not going to move out of sidereal Aries, I don't think, until 2025. And then Rahu is going to move out of sidereal Aries around about the middle of 2023. So they're going to be conjunct for a long time. But this is the peak. This is the real intensity where Mars, Uranus, and Rahu come together at 24 degrees. Yeah. So sorry I know it's not the most positive news, but one has to have an idea because many people are asking, why is this happening? Why are things so intense? Yeah. So I'll move on. I put here, there will be a critical development in the war in Ukraine that will either escalate the whole thing to the next level, where other countries could get physically involved, or there will be some kind of decisive move by either side that will make the outcome beyond doubt. So it will either escalate, blow up to the next level because this conjunction's coming together, Mars, planet of war, or it will almost like blow the fuse on something, and one side it gets tipped in their advantage, and then the outcome of the war will be clear. There could be also the energy of a clear winner emerging. From what I understand at the moment, I think Ukraine is starting to gain the upper hand again back on Russia, but it's very much like this, isn't it? It's very much like this. Let's hope it's Ukraine. Yeah, again, for entertainment purposes only. So here we are. So I put here that the positive potential of this unpredictable energy is that Ukraine gaining some kind of decisive victory over Russia. If so, then Putin may endure some kind of rapid demise that may shock the world with its speed. Yeah, because this is fast energy. Uranus is an electrical planet, electrical storms, sudden revelations, but also as what? Rebellions, revolutions. What tends to happen in revolutions? The leaders tend to be, yeah, which we've just seen in Sri Lanka. Rahu is also here as well, which intensifies the whole thing. Mars is war, yeah. Putin is a Libra ascendant, and Mars is a very difficult planet for Libra ascendants. Also as well, remember I said when you look back in my Putin videos, I said Putin's fates will change in around about November, yeah, because that Ketu effect starts to come into his chart, snip, snip. So, you know, I'm just putting it out there in advance. Anyway, both scenarios are possible with this energy, as Uranus, Mars, and Rahu are very unpredictable. And I put here, there's also a risk of nuclear escalation, because remember as well, this is also squaring, not quite perfectly, but still technically squaring that Pluto. So it is unpredictable. The energy is tumultuous, febrile. You know how we can all feel that there's a lot of tension, things are building, yeah? Things are building, but it is also unpredictable as well, and so are eclipses. When the eclipse happens on the 8th of November, oh my God, extraordinary, isn't it? When it happens on the 8th of November, and I've just remembered, actually, this will be in the USA's 6th house, USA. It will be 6th house. No, it's not in USA's 6th house. The eclipse is happening in the 5th house. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the GOP. I know what I just gave you there was a lot. I know what I just gave you there may have been worrying, But I also know what I gave you there is already stuff that we've seen happening. So it's really kind of a bit more of a heightening of these things. But just to get, like, the dream came, you know, that dialogue. And whenever that happens, I have to make a video about it. Okay, so let's look at the GOP. Yeah, let's look at the GOP. So the GOP, and I want to show you something. You're going to find this remarkable. Now, you'll see my... there was a video I did with Linda G where I looked at GOP, Democrats, and the USA chart, and you can look at that on my collaborations playlist. You can actually see it in there. But let's just remind ourselves. So the GOP party, so founded in Ripon, Wisconsin, by what I've got here, Alvan E. Bovary, Abraham Lincoln, and there's 5 more other people as well. And the date I've got is March 20th, 1854. So, and I've written here 168 years ago as of 2022. Right. So if we look here, this is a Gemini ascendant. Yeah, the GOP as an entity, as a party, has a Gemini ascendant, which means it's very influenced by Mercury. Mercury is the lord of the chart. Mercury is what? A planet of communication. And let's not forget as well, the Mercury in the USA Declaration of Independence chart is in the 8th house. Yeah. Sex, death, rock and roll, power, control, power games, everything that Pluto is about. Yeah. Totalitarianism, fascism. Yeah. So if we look here, what you see here in black are the planets, where the planets were sidereally at the time that the GOP was created as a partner, as a party. What you see in pink here, these conjunctions, 3 main ones, are Donald Trump's planets. Duck l'orange. Yeah, for entertainment purposes only. Look at that. This says a lot. So here we see Mercury in the Mercury of Duck l'orange's chart falls right into the GOP's first house. What's the first house? Our identity. The first house is our identity, how we come across, how we're perceived. So Duck l'orange's Mercury falls right into their first house. Incredible. If we go around here to the 3rd house of the GOP's chart, which is the house of communication. Look at this. Donald Trump's ascendant, so his body, falls into the GOP's 3rd house and is conjunct their Mars, is conjunct his Mars, and both of their Marses are conjunct the star Regulus. And Regulus is about winning a throne. It's the nakshatra, Regulus is the star of kings. It's known as the star of kings. Just because it's stars of kings, it doesn't mean it's a good king. Yeah, could be a bad king, could be an indifferent king. It's all about leadership. But it's in the nakshatra of Marga, and Marga means to win a throne. It also means as well to continue the legacies of our ancestors, to either continue or complete some kind of work that they were not able to finish. This is going to be extremely relevant. So Donald Trump's ascendant and his Mars fit exactly into that place there, as you can see, with the GOP in their 3rd house of communication. Isn't that astonishing? Next, if we look in their 6th house, which is about health and heat, well, it's about fighting. In this case, it's about fighting, overcoming obstacles, enemies, battles. If we look here, the moon of the GOP chart, now remember the moon represents the mind, the thoughts overall, the instinctive responses, the emotions. If we look here in black, this is the debilitated moon of the GOP. Look where Trump's moon is. The moon of the GOP is at 24 degrees, 49 minutes. So it's basically 25 degrees. Trump's moon is at 28 degrees and 5 minutes. Remember, an orb of 3 degrees is bang on. So it's exactly there. Also with the sign of Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, and Ophiuchus goes from 26 degrees to technically 27 degrees of sidereal Scorpio. It's kind of in this region here, basically. It's this region here. So that's all conjunct together. Now the serpent priest can work in two ways. Either that person brings the wisdom of serpentine knowledge as medicine, or they bring the manipulation of the cult and poison. Yeah? We all know what the GOP has become. I was interviewed on a podcast called Sacred Stream the other day, which will be coming out soon. I'll let you know when that comes out. And we were talking about these different things. And for me, Duck L'Orange, I was thinking of Alien. And Duck L'Orange is like a face hugger that has come and laid an egg inside the GOP, and then that creature has burst out, and it's like that. Remember Alien? And it's almost as if we need a kind of a Ripley type of character to come and save the day. But let me just read these different things here. So quick pause. Okay, I'm back. Little comfort break. Okay, so remember I was talking about that conjunction. So remember, Uranus, Mars, Rahu, happening in sidereal Aries. Let's see where that conjunction takes place for the GOP. Yeah. So if I go back here, let's go back to the USA chart, and let's take these three. Yeah, let's take these three, and I'll also use the eclipse point. So if we go here, let me just pin this up. Sorry guys, it's a bit so frustrating sometimes with all these sheets, because yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but sometimes this is the best way to actually do it. So the current conjunction by transit of the planets, Rahu, yeah, Mars, Uranus, is all happening here in the GOP's 11th house. Now the 11th house deals with great gains. And the attainment of desires and dreams. Yeah, it's very much the house of big dreams and desires. So we know by this transit, this conjunction, which becomes exact pretty much now, if I actually look here on my software, Uranus is currently at 24 degrees 26 minutes. Rahu is at 25 degrees 14 minutes, and Mars is at 21 degrees 33 minutes. So that's going to become exact very soon. It pretty much is exact now, but in the next couple of days, and especially around 1st of August, it will be bang on. So here in the GOP's chart, like I said, this is all happening in the 11th house. But in their original chart, you see, look, here's Uranus here, and here's Pluto. So they're having a Uranus return. That happens once every 84 years. So this is how, and it's there with Pluto. Remember, Pluto deals with what? Fascism, the dark side of humanity. So I put here the GOP, so in my notes, I put here, the GOP is going through a Uranus return. And again, this is happening in Bharani. Yeah, the original place of their Uranus is Bharani, the female reproductive system. So, and this happens every 84 years, and it's combined with the energy of Pluto in the 11th house, and Pluto is the planet of what? Fascism. Yeah. So this hopes and dreams. So here, the GOP are in a dramatic phase of radical totalitarianism, manifested by the rebirth of Christian nationalism. Again, like this is out there in the news, particularly if any of you saw that Rachel Maddow thing recently, which was very, very interesting, but you can literally see it astrologically. So here we are. So Christian nationalism as espoused by the lights of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, we all who know that is. Who quotes the lights of Gerald L.K. Smith, who ran for president in 1944 against FDR, Roosevelt, for the America First Party. Yeah? So think about that. This is radical totalitarianism as a desire and hopes and dreams of the GOP coming remanifesting, as it were, by the rehashing of Christian nationalism, which was itself first posited by Gerald L.K. Smith, who created an America First party. Who's been talking so much about what? America First. Duck Larange. When we look at the GOP's chart, Duck Larange's body, him personally, falls into what? The third house of communications for the GOP, with their Mars, which is what? The planet of war. His Mars and their Mars are together, both conjunct the star Regulus. Regulus is the heart of the lion, but it means it's in the nakshatra called Magha, which means to win a throne. But Magha also deals with the ancestors, the Petries, trying to complete some kind of vision or dream of those that have gone before you. So this Gerald L.K. Smith is obviously what? One of that elements of the GOP that they are re-embracing, and they're trying to what? Put his dream back out there. And as you've heard me say before, Magha nakshatra is spelled M-A-G-H-A. When you drop the H, what do you get? MAGA, make America great again. Do you see how it's all coalescing, all coming together here in the desire of the GOP, their great dreams, their big ambitions, great gains? That's what they hope to make out of this. Duck Larange's Mercury falls right into their first house, planet of communication. And then his ascendant and his Mars is conjunct their Regulus, etc. Same for him as well, in the third house of communication. And it's all conjunct their moon, his moon and their moon, in the sign of Ophiuchus, the 13th sign of the zodiac, which is the serpent priest, and the shadow of which is cults, mind control, power, manipulation, totalitarianism, all of those things. That is their modus operandi, and we can literally see it now. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene has literally used those words. Yeah, so if you've not seen that little video, that little clip by Rachel Maddow, have a little look. But I thought I would check that out astrologically, and it is absolutely bang on. I know, a bit scary, but this is to explain why we need to have answers so then we know what we're dealing with. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, let's move on to the Democrats. Let's see what's going on for them. So look, let's take this off again. Oh, and just so you know, so again, not again rather, if we just put the eclipse, actually I took off too many, but the eclipse, when it comes, Rahu and Uranus will still be here, but the eclipse, this is where the eclipse will fall on the 8th of November 2020, the day of the voting of the midterms, falls into the GOP's 11th house, which is, like I said, what? Great gains, dreams. They're going to try and fulfill their dreams, aren't they? Via what? Unconventional means. Rahu deals with lying. Uranus deals with sudden shocks and surprises. I'm just saying, this is sort of the energy they're trying to manifest. All right, so let's take this off. And I hope this is all making sense to everyone. I think it will do. Of course it will. You're intelligent people. So if we go up here, oops. So here we are, the Democratic Party. So founded by President Andrew Jackman and Martin Van Buren on Jan 8th, 1828. That's what I've got. You know, if people have different dates and stuff like that, please let me know in the comments. Remember, I'm here in the UK, looking from my perspective here, so I'm not going to get everything perfect, but from what I could find, this was the accurate one. So now what I've done the same again in terms of the leaders, where the leaders of those parties, where their planets fall. Now, even though Dr. Larange is no longer president, he's still very much the de facto leader of the GOP, as we have seen. So when we're talking about the Democrats, of course, we have to talk about Biden. Yeah, Joe Biden. Now, this is what often happens when a person becomes a leader. they have planets very close to the, or conjunct the ones of their party and the nation. Looky here, when we look at Joe Biden, do you see these significant conjunctions here? So, so for the Democratic Party, is having what is referred to as a nodal inversion. So what I put here, the Democrats are going through a nodal inversion and a T-square, which can be extremely challenging. Because remember, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a look. They've got planets here. Squared Uranus in their natal chart and Venus. Yeah. But also as well, the T-square is continuing because the Democrats also have planets in Libra. So the square is going this way. Yeah. I want you to imagine it's going like this. Yeah. Energies like that. Very challenging. So here, what have I got here? So the Democrats are going through some messaging issues. Why? Now, if we look here, as we know, dear Biden, he's a Scorpio sun, and he is, and with that he's got Venus. So the sun in his chart, which deals with the vitality, the health, and can also represent the ego as well, with Venus falls into the Democrats' 8th house. Now remember, the 8th house is what? A tumultuous house. I often refer to it as the house of what? Sex, death, and rock and roll. It deals with transformation, but it can also deal with unexpected things, unexpected events or consequences. But it also deals with transformation and Kundalini energy as well. Yeah. So there's here we can see the energy of Biden's planets strongly affect the Democrats. And of course, he's trying to what? He's been trying to what? Change the energies, hasn't he? He's been trying to do those kind of dynamics. If we look here, what I found even more extraordinary, if we look in the Democrats' 7th house, which is anyone that's not us, our perception to the outside world, they have Rahu, Jupiter, and Mars, yeah, together. And if we look here, Biden's Mercury and Mars exactly what sits on top of the natal Mars for the Democrat Party. Now remember, Mars is the planet of what? Energy, war, conflict, stuff like that. But for Joe Biden, his Mars and his Mercury are combust, which means that they're very close to the sun, and sometimes it can weaken what that planet is about. So Mars is the planet of energy, vitality, yeah, fire. Mercury is the planet of communication. So here there is that bit there. I think what I see is the Democratic Party might be starting, I think it's happening already, which we've seen. They may be changing their perspective on Biden because they may not see him as being maybe as effective as they would like. Let's just put it that way. Remember, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just showing energy, how it overlaps, how it correlates, and how these parties might be thinking about their leaders. So there might be an issue here with messaging, particularly as well. Not only that, the 7th house deals with trade, business, anyone that's not us. Yeah. So if we look here, so the Democrats are going through a messaging issues, especially on the growth of the economy. Jupiter is with snip, snip. So by transiting, Ketu is going through the 7th house of the Democrats' chart. Yeah. And Jupiter also represents things like economy and stuff like that. So with snip, snip coming in the 7th house of business, trade, and foreign affairs, voters care more about the economy than policy right now. This is what I'm seeing. Maybe even for Democrats, I think they're more focused. Everyone is looking at the economy. I'm just saying what the energies are. Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just giving the energy. Yeah. And so what I'm putting here is they're far more likely to judge Democrats on those factors. So the nodal inversion, remember this is a nodal inversion, which is when you've got Rahu with Ketu and Ketu with Rahu, yeah? Rahu, as we know, is going here, yeah? Here's Rahu. That's Ketu in the original chart of the Democrats. Mars, planet of war, is here as well. And so is Uranus. So we know already how tumultuous this is. It's happening in the Democrats' first house, which is what? The identity, the body. In the natal chart, they have Ketu, snip, snip, which sometimes can affect their messaging. But it's also there with Chiron, the wounded healer. Do we see? This is very dynamic. And Biden's moon, which represents the mind, sits right there. And this conjunction is happening right on his moon. What's happened with Biden recently? He unfortunately contracted COVID, didn't he? Well, you know, a bit difficult for him. And what are people always talking about? They're talking a lot about his mind, yeah? Whether or not it's openly or, you know, in being discussed within the Democratic Party is one thing, but there are a lot of people, that's often something that they use, isn't it, against Biden. It's just reality, isn't it, if we look at the news, but I'm describing the energy. Why these questions are there. So this is also a very challenging time for Biden as well. There's a lot on his mind. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stakes. He's being blamed for a lot of things. Do you remember what I said whatever happens, they're going to try and blame Biden. Yeah, I did say that, and it's come true. It's come true. So there's that energy there. So the nodal inversion could generate some kind of rethink of the Democratic strategy in terms of the Democrats, especially in their run up and after to and after the midterms. Yeah, because remember, we've got that tumultuous energy. There could be some kind of dramatic or unexpected changes, potentially for Joe Biden or the Democrats. Because when we put in here the moon, the lunar eclipse is also happening right there on the 8th, November 8th. So all of this is happening on Joe Biden's moon, where natal Ketu and Chiron, the wounded healer, are for the Democrats, plus the lunar eclipse is happening there with that conjunction. By this point, Mars will be over here, yeah? In the Democrats' second house, which deals with values. So do you see, this is tumultuous energy. Right, okay, now, just to kind of wrap up, let's look at how the energies will play out with this grand conjunction. So I've spoken already about the grand conjunction there, effectively this energy here. The moon won't be there at that time, but let's just look at it for I want this to be, when we're talking about what's happening now, I'll take away the moon because the moon is not there yet in terms of that day. So what's happening now? So for the GOP, 11th house, they're looking to achieve their hopes and dreams of totalitarianism and control via Christian nationalism. That's what they're going for. That's what they're going to try for. That's the energy of now and for the midterms, where that lunar eclipse is happening on the 8th. Yeah, so now and the midterms, Mars will be there at that point. Okay, for the Democrats, Mars is there in their first house with Uranus and with Rahu, with Joe Biden's moon, with their natal Ketu, snip, snip, and Chiron, the wounded healer, having that nodal inversion, which is going to cause some kind of rethink. So this is very, challenging for the Democrats there, and they might try and change strategy in some kind of way, either running up to the midterms or post the midterm results. Yeah, tumultuous times. For Biden, as I said, this is all happening on his moon, so we know what that is. Very, very challenging for him. For Duck L'Orange, this eclipse and all of this action this will be happening. Let's just see here. Where's his chart? Actually, I have to go the other way. Sorry. See all these things I have to do. So for Duck L'Orange, if we look here, this is all, sorry for all this chopping and changing, folks, but you know, at least we understand what's going on now. This is all happening in his 9th house, which deals with what? The DOJ have just, got the subpoenas ready, haven't they? So we've been hesitating, like, oh, is it going to happen? Is he going to do it? The DOJ finally come out of it. This is happening in his 9th house. What's the 9th house? The 9th house deals with laws, yeah? So we've got the DOJ subpoena and the grand jury starting to actually scrutinize what Duck Larange has been up to. Also as well, you know, the 9th house deals with legalities of all kinds because it literally deals with the laws, beliefs, but it also deals with foreign lands. Foreign lands. Could Duck Larange be trying to make some kind of little moves or international negotiations? Particularly as well, now remember the moon is this very difficult one for him. He's got a dreadful moon. The only thing that really saves it is that it's in an angle, and that helped him in the 4th house with real estate and stabilized that moon a little bit, or at least made him good with real estate-ish. Anyway, here on the 8th of November, the moon will be here, also in that conjunction with Uranus and Rahu. But more importantly, Mars would have then moved into Donald Trump's 10th house. Now, the 10th house is our reputation, yeah? How we stand up in the world. It deals with what? Presidents, yeah? It deals with presidents. So if we look here, what's the 10th house? All this swapping backwards and forwards, but here we are. It deals with public duties, career, presidents, reputation, bosses, fame, fathers, wealth, honors, vocation, purpose, status, government, authority figures, highest achievements. It's a Kendra and it's a Kendra, which means it's an angle. It's very powerful. So here, what we've got is Mars, planet of war, in Donald Trump's 10th house. It's also going to be conjunct his natal Uranus, which of course is very tumultuous, his Rahu, and his sun, which is him, also the vitality. Mars is going to be staying in Donald Trump's 10th house effectively for about 8 months. Oh my God. What effect will this have? It will be tumultuous, extremely tumultuous. But there's going to be a lot of fighting and battling, because the thing is, look, we need to remember he's a Leo ascendant, and he's got Mars in the 1st house in his body, and Mars is a very powerful planet for Leos and for Cancerians. It's the Yoga Karka, because Mars rules for the Leo, rules the 4th house and the 9th house. That's an angle and a trine. Yoga Karka, very powerful, and it's in the 10th house, which is what? The career. So what this says to me is Duck Larange is going to be fighting like hell, literally, to kind of quote his words, for his career, for his standing, trying to get back that presidency to avoid what? All of that legal jeopardy that will be happening in his 9th house. Because look, while this is going on in the midterms, the eclipse is falling into his 9th house, which means everything, the legalities, everything, all the secrets, all bubbling up, as we've seen with Jan 6th, but now the GOJ is going to be involved. But Mars is going to be there in his 10th. So because of the revelations of what's going on in his 9th, he's going to be fighting, using that energy of Mars, which is in his 1st house, and his Yoga Karka, to fight for his career and fight to try and take the presidency back. While at the same time, the GOP are trying to fulfill their dreams of totalitarianism via Christian nationalism. Do we see? So we can see the stage is set, guys. This is very, very kind of bombastic stuff. And this conjunction as well, I don't have Joe Biden's chart here, but we know that he's a Scorpio. So if we count round from Scorpio, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is also happening in Joe Biden's 6th house, and the 6th house deals with health and healing, yeah? So he needs to look after his health, he needs to preserve his health, and he needs to pace himself, because this conjunction This bombastic conjunction of sudden shocks and surprises and violence and war and firearms and all of these different kind of things are all happening in Joe Biden's 6th house. So he needs to look after his health, and he needs to have his protection, as particularly as Donald Trump, who's having this trouble in his 9th house, is fighting for his legal life, but he's going to be using his Mars to try and reclaim the presidency. So there, I'm going to leave it there. What I've shared with you has been bombastic stuff. I hope you found it interesting. I know it's been very dramatic. I know it's not necessarily been 100% positive, but this also can mean very dramatic innovations as well, particularly in regards to health and because breakthroughs, let's say innovation and breakthroughs. It's not all going to be bad, but it's very dynamic energy. I hope you guys appreciated that explanation, although the message is rather a bit dynamic. But again, the last time this happened was 1855. So this doesn't happen all the time. And there was these kind of energies were at play at that point. So I wanted to help everyone understand why. And in that multi-layered presentation, I hope you were able to follow that. Please leave your messages in the comments below, what you thought about some of those dynamics. I know I mentioned a lot of stuff there. Also as well, if you'd like a consultation with me, then of course, please feel free to visit my website, which is the archetypalblueprint.com. All of the information is in the link below, and don't forget to like or subscribe or those things, even though it was a bit dramatic, but at least I have to do my part. When those messages come through, I must share them. That's really what I was put on earth to do. So hold on to your underpants, everyone. Be mindful of your travel as well at this time. Oh, I've just been reminded. That reminds me, Lena just told me as well that one of the heads of Heathrow, I think, said the travel, which is in the UK, the travel disruption may go on into 2023. So remember, also as well, I forgot to say, Uranus is also plane travel, sometimes can deal with plane crashes as well, unfortunately. But it tends to deal a lot with travel disruption. Yeah, when we got this square with Saturn there, government distribution systems of all kinds. Anyway, I will leave it there. It was dramatic, but it had to be said. And we'll get this video up, and let me know what you think in the comments. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's see what happens. But this conjunction between Uranus, Mars, and Rahu is basically becoming exact now, and will definitely peak at the end of the month and the first day of August, and will have reverberations through the rest of the year. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. All right, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.